Welcome to r/Malicious Compliance, where people always do what they're told. And since you guys told me you want more puppy bloopers, that means I have to comply. I'm a type 1 diabetic and I have an insulin pump. When I was in 6th grade, my pump was wired, i.e. it had a tube that went from the pump, which looked a bit like a cell phone to me. So I have to take insulin after I eat, and I had pretty explicitly told all of my teachers that I was diabetic. But this teacher was a bit thick and a stickler for the rules. My class had just gotten back to class after lunch and we were reading a book out loud. My pump beeped to remind me to take insulin after lunch, and I noticed teacher give me a bit of a dirty look, but I ignored it and whipped out my pump to deliver insulin. The teacher said, "OP, stop texting in class. You know the rules. Please bring your phone to the front and report to detention." My middle school had a very strict no cell phones policy. I was about to protest, but realized this would be an excellent opportunity for some malicious compliance. So with a smug grin on my face, I walk up to the teacher with my pump in my hand, and it is still literally attached to me. I hand her my pump. "What's this cord? Why do you have a chain for your cell phone?" Me with a deadpan stare. I'm a diabetic, and this is my insulin pump. At this point, her face goes sheet white and I unclip my pump from my body. A bit of a maneuver because it was on my arm and slightly difficult to reach. And walk out of the class before she can say anything and go directly to detention. When I arrive, I tell the detention officer I was sent for using electronics in class. Before I even finish, a student from my class walks in and says I can come back to class, and the teacher apologizes profusely and never messes with me for beeping or using any device. I think the teacher must have said something along the lines of, "Please don't sue me. Please don't sue me." This didn't happen to me, but my dad, and it's one of my favorite stories he tells. Some years ago, by which I mean 2 or so decades roughly, my dad was at a several-day course to earn some additional qualifications for his job. On the final day, there was going to be a multiple-choice test to actually pass the seminar. On test day, everyone got settled into place and the teacher announced that he would not go easy on cheaters. You had one strike to be caught trying to copy off of someone else or use a cheat sheet. But if you were caught a second time, you would be immediately thrown out and your score made invalid. Now, this teacher was very old school strict and treating grown working people like unruly school children. And my dad does not like that very much. So my dad proceeds to take the test and it goes pretty well. When he's through with the questions, there is just one left where he's not sure he's got it right. And he has a free strike after all. So my dad yells out into the class, just calls out, "What's the answer to question 14? Some complete bro elsewhere in the room yells the answer back. My dad fills in the sheet, gets up, walks to the teacher's desk, presumably tries to not trip on the teacher's jaw as it lies on the floor, hands in the test, and leaves the room. To the teacher's credit, he approached my dad afterwards with some begrudging respect. I don't know if he changed his policy afterwards or the tone in which he conveyed it. Hi Reddit, not 100% sure the story belongs here, but I really want to share it with you. Last summer, I worked as an ice cream vendor on the beach of my hometown. Best job I ever had. People were nice to me, I got to work on my tan, it paid pretty well, but most importantly, we were allowed to eat the delicious ice cream in our breaks. One day, I'm serving a man and his son. The man orders a cone with 2 scoops for him and a cone with 1 scoop for the little one. The kid wasn't happy about that and said to his dad that he also wanted 2 scoops. The dad explains that the scoops are pretty big and that 1 will suffice for him. I confirmed this to help the dad, even offering to make it extra big. Still, the kid doesn't budge. Instead, he starts throwing a tantrum, nearly crying how he wanted 2 scoops. The dad, clearly not wanting to ruin his vacation mood, gives up and says to the kid he can have 2 scoops. However, he adds, "If you can't finish your ice cream like I said you wouldn't, no more TV for you for the rest of the vacation." The kid happily agrees, claiming he could eat a whole tub of ice cream. Big mistake, kid. Me, being the petty person that I am, wanted to teach this brat a lesson. I proceed by scooping one of the most gigantic scoops I've ever scooped in my entire scooping career. I put it on the cone. The kid's eyes widen in shock. My scoop goes back for more. I see the kid tremble in disbelief. I scooped the second most gigantic scoop a scooper could scoop and graciously added to the first one. I hand the monstrosity I've created to the kid, who by now realizes he won't watch TV again this summer. The dad seemed pretty cool with it. He even tipped me a little, which was very rare. All in all, a pretty good day. This actually reminds me of a similar story that happened to me when I was a kid. When I was little, there was a restaurant that I really liked. And whenever you ordered a burger, you could upgrade the standard fries to these like loaded fries that had like melted cheese and bacon and sour cream and chives on it. And it was delicious. To be honest, I liked the fries more than I liked the burger. The only downside was they didn't give you a whole lot of fries. So one day I go to the restaurant with my parents and I'm like, well, the burger's pretty good, but since the fries are so much better, I'd rather order the fries. But since they give you such a little amount, I figured I'd need to order extra. So the waiter comes around and I'm like, I want to order the loaded fries, but I want them as an appetizer. And then I want 2 more orders of fries for the main meal when everything comes out. And the waiter's like, 2 orders of fries, got it. And me, being the cocky little 12 or 13-year-old that I am, I'm like, no, dude, I don't think you understand. I want 3 separate orders of fries, 1 as an appetizer so we can all eat it before the meal, and then 2 orders of fries just for me for the main meal. The waiter's like, are you sure? That's a lot of fries. And I'm like, don't worry, I know what I'm talking about. So he's like, all right, and he just writes it down. Anyways, so the appetizer plate of fries comes around and the appetizer portion is actually bigger than all the food for a main entree. It's like enough fries to feed 2 or 3 people. It is literally a mountain of cholesterol. So at this point, my dad is laughing his butt off and he just looks at me and he's like, well, dig in, bud. I couldn't even finish the first plate of fries, let alone the other 2 plates of fries that just sat there depressingly next to me. So anyways, I ended up looking like a total moron and the waiter kind of had a laugh at my expense. I used to work as a checker and stocker at a grocery store. Our manager, Mike, was a D-bag and would always try to screw people. There was massive turnover at this store. So one day, I got called into his office and asked why I gave overtime on my time card. I was usually scheduled for 1 to 10 p.m. with an hour lunch, but the store didn't close until 10, so I had to count out my drawer afterwards. I explained this to Mike and he didn't care. He went off saying that I should be doing this earlier and that I was to leave at 10 on the dot so that I had no overtime. Got it, boss man. A couple of weeks later, it was Thanksgiving time. We had extra checkers, but from 8 to 10 p.m., I was the only one besides the manager who closed the store that day. I made the announcement at about 9:40 that we would be closing in 20 minutes and to please finish up your purchases to check out. People started coming up to check out and their carts were loaded since it was almost Thanksgiving. I go about checking them all out, but then the clock turns to 10 o'clock. I stop in the middle of my transaction, call Mike on the store phone and tell him I'm leaving since I can't have overtime, walk over and clock out. There are still 6 to 7 customers with full baskets in line at this time. Mike comes over and is yelling at me as I'm walking out, but I remind him that he specifically told me that I can't have any overtime. When I got into work the next day, I was written up, but it was worth it. Apparently, he spent the next 30 to 45 minutes checking people out. Man, when you write someone up for something like this, what do you even write down? This employee followed my instructions, but my instructions were stupid, so he should have ignored them? This happened fairly recently. My work is fairly small and situated in a mall. We have a small locker room, but it's unisex, so no one gets fully dressed there, but many people will change their tops. Most days, I work 2 shifts, an early morning maintenance shift with a midday lunch shift starting straight after I finish the maintenance. My managers are really stingy with breaks, absolute legal minimum, clock to the second. They'll also try and schedule you for just under the hour requirement to avoid giving another break. I.e., if you're due another break if you work 8 hours, they'll schedule you for 7 hours and 45 minutes. As a maintenance worker, I have a maintenance shirt, which I switch to a general uniform top whenever I come off maintenance. Since I'm female presenting, I wear a light shirt underneath for decency. Normally, it would only take me a few seconds to switch tops and jump back on floor for my second shift, but a few weeks ago, my boss pulled me aside and told me that they didn't want me changing in the locker room anymore for hygiene reasons. Notably, they didn't tell any of my male coworkers who had been doing the same thing for years. Now, I have to walk to the nearest bathroom, approximately 5 minutes away, to get changed. Here's where the compliance comes in. There was an unspoken expectation that I would have to get changed during my break, but given how stringent my managers are, I really didn't want to gouge a large chunk out of my limited free time. Instead, every day I deliberately leave a small amount of maintenance work left undone, maybe 10-15 minutes worth before my break, so I'd have to keep my maintenance shirt on to complete that work. Once that's done, I take a leisurely stroll to the nearest bathroom while on clock to get changed. This is generally one of the busiest periods, early lunch rush, so my managers often have to stop sitting and chatting in the office and cover me until I get back. So back before this YouTube channel, I had a normal job and I had a boss kinda like this who sat around browsing Facebook while everyone else did all the hard work. He was a bit older and kind of old-fashioned, so he didn't even realize it was possible to make a living as a content creator. I'm kinda tempted to email him now and be like, hey old boss, look at my YouTube channel now. I work at Insert Pizza Place here that opened up last year in November, and just yesterday I had this happen to me. Now on to the story. All this week we have a deal going on online where you get half off of all pizzas you order, and we weren't very busy tonight, so I was just about to get off 3 hours early, but decided to serve one last customer who came in after I collected my tips but before I actually clocked out. A little side note, my manager was behind me at the cut table cutting up the last 4 pizzas for this order. Hello, are you here to pick up? Yes, I am. I ordered online. Okay, what name was on the order? Karen. Not her name, but changed to keep her from knowing if she reads the subreddit. Okay, that'll be the total price. Would you be paying with cash or card? What? Why is it so much? I thought everything was half off. I'm sorry, ma'am. It's only pizzas that are half off. We go back and forth some with her trying to get the price lower, but eventually she demands, then get me the employee discount. I smile as I know this would just make the order cost more. Okay, but I'll have to take off all the other discounts to put it on. She smiles as though she just won a prize. Go ahead and take them off. I take the discount for her ordering online off and give her my own smile as I say, that'll be an even more expensive price. Would you be paying with cash or a card? What? Why is it more expensive? Get me your manager. Manager finishes the last pizza and comes around the heating rack. I'm the manager and I've listened to everything that's been said. Tells you how loud this woman was because the oven is running all the time and it's pretty loud when you're right next to it. Suffice it to say, the woman ended up paying the higher price. So you could say that OP gave her a pizza his mind? I was around 13 or so and my brother is 3 years older than me. I woke up one morning to my brother huffing and bellowing and generally being a jerk. Didn't take very long to realize he'd locked himself out of his room. I offered to help him, but as soon as I did, he turned around and snapped at me to F off. Oh, okay, sure. I went inside the kitchen and had breakfast, eating slowly and watching the insanity unfold. My brother is stalking from his room to the back of the house out the back door, circles around outside to wrestle with his window, then to the front of the house and comes in through the front door and paces back and forth in front of his door again. No matter what he tries, he can't get inside. Are you sure you don't want help? Get effing lost! I go into the living room and boot up his PlayStation, which he left in the living room, and play his games for a few hours. He's so preoccupied with doing his circuits outside, around and through the house, out the back door and in the front that he doesn't even notice. Lunchtime rolls around. I ask him if he's absolutely certain he doesn't want help. Once again, I get a slew of expletives. So I go back inside, make a sandwich, grab a glass of orange juice, and go back outside to sit on the bonnet of the car and watch as he does his circuits and wrestles with the window. I enjoy my lunch and go back inside to play more of his games. Hours later, the sun is going down and I've had my fill of games, and I go out to check on how he's doing. He's standing defeated, staring helplessly at his window like it's betrayed him. So, how are you doing? You managed to get in yet? He doesn't hear the sarcasm. He looks like he's about to cry. No, look, I'm sorry about shouting at you earlier, but I locked myself out. I gave his arm a comforting pat and nodded. Yeah, I heard about that. Would you like some help? I don't know what you could do, but yeah, I've tried everything. Thanks though. Oh, it's no problem. But have you tried this yet? I pulled the top of his window down where he'd been trying to wrestle it up this whole time. The house is old and the windows have been painted over many a time. So much so that everyone but me forgets that once upon a time you actually could open the windows from the top even if it was locked from the inside. The look on his face as I walked away makes me wish I'd been wearing sunglasses or walked away polishing my nails on my shirt. It's been 20 years since then, and that jaw drop was so satisfying it makes me smile even to this day. I waited all day for my apology, and dang, it felt good when I finally got it. Edit, if this ends up in a YouTube video, make sure to link it to me. No problemo, Vongola Sky. I credit every single OP in the video itself and always provide a link to the original post in the description. And since you guys liked it so much from my last video, here are a few more puppy bloopers. This didn't happen to me, but my dad, and it's one of my favorite stories he tells. You go. Come on, man. You go. I gotta record, bud. Some years ago, by which I mean 2 or so decades. Dog, do you mind? Please don't bite my chair. Dog. My dad was at a several-day course to earn some. Yes. You want to record too? You do? Come on up on my lap. Come on. Come on. Puppy dog. Puppy dog. But if you were caught a second time, you would be immediately thrown out and your score made invalid. Now, dog, yes, you go. What do you want? You want to make a YouTube video with me? Don't worry, I'll put you in, bud. I'll put you in. You go.